For decades, millions remembered John Denver as the smiling voice behind some of America's most beloved songs. His music celebrated love, nature, and simple living. But after his sudden death in 1997, questions never fully disappeared. Rumors spread, stories changed, and fans wondered what really happened behind the public image. Years later, one of the people closest to him finally spoke openly about the man the world thought it knew. What truth remained hidden for so long? For decades, John Denver seemed like the perfect American success story. His voice was gentle. His smile appeared sincere. And his songs painted pictures of open skies, mountain roads, and a simpler way of life. To millions of fans around the world, John Denver was more than a singer. He became a symbol of hope, peace, and optimism. But long before sold-out arenas and international fame, he was simply a young man with a dream. Born Henry John Deutschendorf Jr. on December 31, 1943, in Roswell, New Mexico, his early life was far from stable. His father served as a United States Air Force pilot, and the family moved frequently from one place to another. Constant relocation made it difficult for the young boy to build lasting friendships. While other children settled into communities, he often found himself starting over. Music became an escape. When he was still a teenager, his grandmother gave him a guitar. That gift would change the course of his life forever. As the years passed, he spent countless hours practicing and writing songs. Music offered something he struggled to find elsewhere, a sense of belonging. Eventually, he left college to pursue a career in music. It was a risky decision. Thousands of young musicians shared the same dream, and success was far from guaranteed. During the 1960s, Denver moved through the growing folk music scene. He performed in small clubs and worked tirelessly to gain recognition. The breakthrough did not happen overnight. Years of hard work came before audiences began to notice him. One of the earliest signs of success arrived when he joined the popular folk group, the Mitchell Trio. The opportunity gave him valuable experience and helped introduce him to a wider audience. Still, his biggest achievements were yet to come. As the 1970s began, John Denver's career exploded. Songs such as Take Me Home, Country Roads, Rocky Mountain High, Sunshine on My Shoulders, and Annie's Song became enormous hits. His music connected with listeners in a unique way. While many artists focused on glamour or rebellion, Denver sang about love, family, nature, and everyday emotions. People believed him because the feelings sounded genuine. Radio stations played his songs constantly. Albums sold in huge numbers. Concert venues filled with fans eager to hear the man whose voice seemed to capture the beauty of ordinary life. As footage from the era showed cheering crowds and packed arenas, Denver stood at the center of it all. His popularity stretched far beyond the United States. Fans across Europe, Asia, Australia, and countless other regions embraced his music. He became one of the most recognizable entertainers in the world. Television appearances increased his fame even further. His holiday specials and guest appearances brought him directly into family living rooms. Parents trusted him. Children admired him. Audiences viewed him as approachable and kind. Unlike many celebrities, he seemed relatable. That image became one of his greatest strengths. But it also became a burden. As success continued growing, the public developed a very specific picture of who John Denver was. He was seen as the smiling singer who loved nature,
the family man,
the gentle activist, the positive voice in a complicated world. And in many ways, those descriptions were true. Denver genuinely cared about environmental issues. He became involved in humanitarian causes and worked to raise awareness about hunger and conservation. His commitment earned respect beyond the music industry. He wanted to make a difference.
Yet,
even as fans celebrated his accomplishments, another reality existed behind the spotlight. Fame can create expectations that are impossible to meet. The larger Denver's public image became, the harder it was to separate the performer from the person. Millions believed they knew him through his songs. But songs reveal only part of a life. Behind the concerts and television appearances stood a man dealing with pressures that audiences rarely saw. Success demanded constant travel. Tours kept him away from home for long periods. Professional obligations filled his calendar. The schedule was exhausting. At the same time, maintaining a public image required enormous effort. Every interview, performance, and public appearance reinforced the version of John Denver that people expected to see. The smiling entertainer, the optimistic dreamer, the man who always seemed happy. However, real life is rarely that simple. Those closest to him understood that fame did not eliminate personal struggles. Relationships required attention. Family life faced challenges. The pressure of living under public scrutiny never completely disappeared. While audiences applauded the star standing beneath bright stage lights, family members and friends witnessed moments hidden from public view. Like many celebrities, Denver lived between two worlds. One belonged to the public. The other remained private. For years, those worlds appeared balanced. His career continued thriving, and his reputation remained strong. Fans saw little reason to question the image they had embraced. After all, the music felt authentic. The message seemed sincere. And John Denver looked exactly like the person his songs described. Yet beneath the surface, cracks had already begun to form. The challenges that came with fame, marriage, expectations, and personal identity were quietly building. Most fans never noticed. The crowds kept cheering. The records kept selling. And the image remained intact. But the image that fans loved would soon face challenges few people ever saw coming. By the late 1970s. John Denver seemed to have everything many people could only dream about. He was one of the biggest music stars in the world. His albums sold millions of copies. His concerts attracted enormous crowds. His face appeared regularly on television screens across America. From the outside, his life looked perfect. But behind the success, difficult challenges were beginning to grow. The same fame that had brought him extraordinary opportunities was also creating pressures that followed him everywhere. Life on the road became a constant part of his career. Tour after tour kept him away from home for weeks, and sometimes months at a time. Audiences saw the excitement of sold-out arenas and standing ovations. What they did not see were the long flights, lonely hotel rooms, and endless demands that came with being a global star. The schedule left little room for normal family life. At the center of his personal world was his wife, Annie Martel. Their love story had once inspired one of his most famous songs. In 1974, Denver wrote Annie's song after reflecting on his feelings for her during a difficult period in their relationship. The song became one of the biggest hits of his career and remains one of the most recognized love songs ever recorded. To fans, it seemed like proof of a perfect marriage. The reality was more complicated. Like many couples, they faced disagreements, emotional struggles, and the challenges of balancing personal needs with professional responsibilities. As Denver's fame increased, those challenges became harder to ignore. The demands of celebrity life placed enormous pressure on the relationship. While he traveled constantly, Annie often carried responsibilities at home. The distance created emotional strain. Over time, small issues became larger problems. Friends and family members began noticing that the pressures of success were affecting Denver more than many people realized. Despite his public image as a cheerful performer, he often wrestled with frustration and self-doubt. He wanted to be successful. He wanted to be respected. But he also wanted stability and happiness away from the spotlight. Those goals did not always fit together. Meanwhile, Denver's career continued moving forward. He expanded beyond music and explored acting, television hosting, and various public causes. He became involved in environmental projects and humanitarian efforts. His passion for conservation was genuine. He spoke openly about protecting nature and preserving the places he loved. Many people admired him for using his fame to support important issues. Yet every new commitment added more responsibilities. The public often assumes success solves life's problems. For Denver, success sometimes created new ones. The more famous he became, the harder it was to escape public expectations. Fans expected the same smiling personality wherever he appeared. The media often portrayed him as a symbol of kindness and optimism. There was little room for mistakes, little room for weakness, and almost no room for personal struggles. As the years passed, Denver found himself carrying the weight of an image that millions had embraced. The pressure affected his relationships. It affected his emotional well-being, and it slowly changed parts of his life that had once brought him comfort. Family remained important to him. He deeply loved his children and valued the idea of home. But maintaining close relationships while living a celebrity lifestyle proved difficult. The balance he desperately wanted became harder to achieve. By the early 1980s, the strain on his marriage was becoming increasingly visible. The couple worked to save the relationship, but years of pressure had taken a toll. Eventually, John Denver and Annie Martell divorced in 1982. For fans who viewed them as the picture of happiness, the news came as a shock. The woman who inspired Annie's song was no longer his wife. One of the most celebrated love stories in popular music had come to an end. The divorce affected Denver deeply. Although he continued performing and recording music, the emotional impact remained. The public saw the entertainer moving forward. Privately, he was dealing with loss and disappointment. The end of the marriage forced him to confront painful realities about his personal life. It was a turning point that many fans never fully understood. As the years continued, Denver entered new relationships and continued searching for happiness. He eventually married Australian actress Cassandra Delaney in 1988. At first, the marriage appeared to offer a fresh start. But new challenges soon emerged. Differences in lifestyle, expectations, and personal goals created tensions within the relationship. The same struggles that had complicated earlier chapters of his life did not simply disappear. Again, the public largely saw only selected moments. Magazine photos, television appearances, public events. What happened behind closed doors remained known only to those closest to him. Throughout this period, Denver continued producing music and performing for devoted audiences. Many fans remained unaware of the emotional battles unfolding beneath the surface. The contrast between public perception and private reality grew larger with each passing year. People still viewed him as the cheerful singer of mountain songs and hopeful dreams. But those nearest to him understood that life had become far more complicated. As the 1990s approached, Denver found himself facing questions about his future, his relationships, and his identity beyond fame. The struggles that had quietly followed him for years were becoming impossible to ignore. And soon, a tragedy no one expected would bring those hidden struggles into an entirely new light. However, none of those struggles prepared anyone for the tragedy that would suddenly change everything. By 1997, John Denver was no longer at the absolute peak of his commercial fame, but he remained one of the most beloved singers in America. His music continued to reach new generations. Fans still filled concert halls. Radio stations still played his classic songs. And wherever he went, people recognized the voice that had become the soundtrack to countless lives. But there was another passion in Denver's life besides music. He loved flying. For years, aviation had given him a sense of freedom that few other activities could match. High above the ground, away from crowds and expectations, he found peace. Flying allowed him to escape the pressures of celebrity life, even if only for a short time. It was a passion he took seriously. Over the years, he earned various pilot certifications and spent many hours in the air. Friends often described how much he enjoyed aviation. It wasn't simply a hobby. It was part of who he was. Yet that passion would eventually place him in the center of a tragedy that stunned the world. On October 12, 1997, John Denver arrived at the Pacific coast near Monterey Bay, California. The weather was clear. Conditions appeared favorable for flying. That day, he planned to take a flight in a recently purchased experimental aircraft known as a Rutan Long-Easy. The aircraft was unusual in both design and operation. Unlike traditional airplanes, certain controls and fuel systems required pilots to adapt to a different layout. Denver had spent time becoming familiar with the aircraft, but he was still relatively new to flying that specific model. As the afternoon progressed, he prepared for another flight. Few people around him could have imagined what was about to happen. Witnesses later reported seeing the aircraft flying normally before something suddenly went wrong. Within moments, disaster struck. The plane crashed into Monterey Bay. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, but there was nothing they could do. John Denver was killed instantly. He was just 53 years old. The news spread rapidly across the country. Within hours, television networks interrupted programming. Radio stations reported the tragic story. Newspapers rushed to prepare special editions. Fans everywhere struggled to believe what they were hearing. For millions of people, John Denver had always seemed larger than life. His songs felt timeless. His presence felt permanent. Now, suddenly, he was gone. As evening approached, tributes began pouring in from every corner of the entertainment world. Musicians expressed their sorrow. Friends shared memories. Fans gathered to listen to his music and reflect on what his songs had meant to them. Across America, many people found themselves returning to familiar melodies. Take Me Home, Country Roads, Annie's Song, Rocky Mountain High. Songs that once celebrated life now carried a new emotional weight. The loss felt deeply personal to many listeners. Some had grown up with his music. Others had played his songs at weddings, family gatherings, and important moments in their lives. His voice had become connected to memories that stretched back decades. Now those memories were mixed with grief. As footage from memorial gatherings appeared on television, candles flickered beside photographs of the singer. Fans sang along to his songs through tears. The sadness was unmistakable. Yet, alongside the grief came questions. How could such an experienced pilot die in what appeared to be a routine flight? What exactly had happened in those final moments? Investigators immediately began searching for answers. The crash site was carefully examined. Witness statements were collected. Experts studied the aircraft and reviewed available evidence. As details emerged, public curiosity continued growing. Reports suggested that the design of the aircraft may have contributed to the accident. Particular attention focused on the location of the fuel selector valve. Some investigators believed Denver may have attempted to adjust the fuel system during flight. Doing so could have caused him to lose control of the aircraft at a critical moment. However, understanding exactly what happened proved difficult. Unlike larger commercial aircraft, the plane carried limited data that investigators could analyze. Certain questions would never be answered with complete certainty. As official findings became public, many people accepted the explanation. Others continued to wonder if there was more to the story. Rumors began spreading.